It still feels strange to say this out loud, but every time New Year's Eve comes around, my mind drifts back to a series of moments that slowly changed how I see homeowners associations forever. My name is Ethan Walker, and for most of my life, I believed HOAs were just mildly annoying organizations obsessed with trash cans, lawn height, and mailbox colors. I grew up thinking they were harmless. That belief didn't survive my 20s. The first incident happened on New Year's Eve, 2017, in an HOA neighborhood just outside Cleveland, Ohio, a place called Maple Ridge Estates. It was one of those communities designed to look welcoming but feel strangely sterile, where every house followed the same approved color palette and every resident lived under a thick booklet of rules no one ever fully read. I had just finished a semester out of state and arrived home later than expected after a delayed flight. My parents had already left for a New Year's party at my cousin's place, leaving me alone in the house with our golden retriever, Vera. I was already irritated. The Browns had just finished their winless season, my travel plans were ruined, and the HOA had recently started issuing fines for even the smallest infractions. Earlier that month, a neighbor had been fined for leaving their garage door open too long. So when my mom reminded me not to park on the street overnight because of HOA patrols, it felt like the final insult to an already miserable day. Around 10 p.m., Vera started packing. Maple Ridge Estates didn't allow dogs to relieve themselves on front lawns, so residents were expected to use a designated greenbelt area at the edge of the neighborhood. I grabbed my keys and drove there, pulling into a small gravel turnout approved by the HOA. The streetlights were dim, half of them had been removed to preserve natural ambience, according to the HOA newsletter. Standing there, surrounded by darkness and trees, that decision suddenly felt reckless. I let Vera out without a leash, something I'd done dozens of times before. She sniffed near the tree line, tail wagging, completely unbothered. Then, without warning, a loud crashing sound tore through the woods beyond the boundary signs. It wasn't the random snap of a branch or an animal moving. It was fast, heavy, and deliberate, like someone running without caring who heard them. Before I could react, Vera bolted straight past the HOA boundary markers and disappeared into the trees. Panic hit me instantly. Entering that area violated HOA rules, and Maple Ridge was notorious for enforcement, but none of that mattered. I ran after her, yelling her name, my phone flashlight barely illuminating the snow-dusted ground. The deeper I went, the worse it felt. The darkness swallowed sound, yet I could still hear movement, always behind me, never visible. When I finally found Vera, she wasn't chasing anything. She was crouched low, shaking uncontrollably, tail tucked so tightly it looked painful. I dropped to my knees, holding her, trying to calm her down. That's when the realization hit me, whatever scared her was still out there. As we rushed back toward the parking area, the crashing started again, closer this time. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. When we reached the car, I turned just long enough to see three figures standing at the edge of the trees, just beyond the HOA boundary sign. They didn't speak. They didn't move. They just watched. I threw Vera into the back seat and sped off. A few miles later, I noticed blood soaking into her fur. There was a clean cut just below her shoulder blade. The vet later told me it looked intentional, not like an accident or animal bite. I never reported it. I didn't trust the HOA, and I didn't trust how quickly they liked to shift blame onto residents. That should have been the end of it. It was. A few years later, another New Year's Eve brought everything back. By then, I was living on my own and driving to my parents' new HOA community in upstate Pennsylvania, a place called Pine Hollow Village. The weather turned brutal halfway through the drive. Snow piled up fast, visibility dropped, and my sedan couldn't handle the icy hills. With no safe options left, I pulled over near the entrance gate to the community. Pine Hollow had strict rules, no unauthorized stops, no overnight parking, no exceptions. I sat there for over an hour, engine off, conserving gas, wondering if I'd get fined just for being stranded. That's when headlights appeared through the snow. A truck pulled up beside me with the HOA logo on the door. The driver introduced himself as Frank, part of the community's winter safety team. Frank offered me a ride inside the neighborhood, saying stranded vehicles outside the gate were a violation. His voice was calm but rough, like someone who'd spent years barking orders. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The warmth inside the truck was comforting at first, but unease crept in quickly. Frank barely spoke, and when he did, it felt rehearsed. As we drove, I noticed we weren't heading toward my parents' street. The GPS kept recalculating. When I asked about it, Frank said we needed to verify residency first. That's when I noticed the red flags, empty bottles rolling near his feet, a knife wedged between the seats, violation notices scattered across the dashboard with handwritten notes. Fear took over. When I spotted a house with lights on, I acted without thinking. I kicked the door open and jumped into the snow, pain shooting up my leg. Frank shouted behind me, but I didn't look back. The homeowners inside, Mark and Linda Collins, pulled me in and immediately called the police. By the time officers arrived, the HOA truck was gone. Pine Hollow later denied that Frank existed at all. The final incident happened in northwestern Ontario, in a private lakeside HOA community called Silverline Shores. Ice fishing was allowed only for registered members, and my friends Nate Miller and Trevor Hayes and I had permits. As we unloaded our gear, a man approached us claiming an HOA member had fallen through the ice and needed immediate help. Without thinking, we followed him. Instead of leading us to an approved fishing zone, he took us to an isolated section of the shoreline. 2 other men waited there. They weren't dressed for fishing. One raised a gun and demanded our keys, wallets, and permits. We'd been set up using fake HOA credentials. They drove off in Nate's truck, disappearing into the woods. Police later suggested the men had been exploiting HOA trust systems to lure residents. None of them were caught. Silverline Shores issued a statement reminding residents to verify all emergency requests through official HOA channels. Every incident happened around New Year's Eve. Everyone involved an HOA, clean neighborhoods, polite newsletters, and beneath it all, people abusing authority, hiding behind rules, and exploiting trust. I still live in an HOA community. I follow the rules. I attend meetings. But I never walk the greenbelts at night, never trust uniforms without verification, and every New Year's Eve, when the fireworks start and the neighborhoods fall quiet, I can't help but wonder how many things happen in HOA communities that never make it into the official records.